What's up guys, Mike from Rockville, and today I'm going to be showing you how to use your RCC14 in-wall and in-ceiling speaker wire. Now depending on what size you got, either the 100-foot version, the 250-foot version, or 500-feet version, you can always take your size and cut it down further for whatever your setup requires. And if you got either the 250-foot version or the 500-foot version, you'll notice they come in a neat box for easier storage, spooling, and cutting to size. On top of that, you might have either gotten the 2-conductor version, which has a red positive and a black negative wire, or you might have got the 4-conductor version, which has 2 sets of positive wires, red and green, as well as 2 sets of negative wires, black and white. The 4-conductor version is really good if you're doing any installs where the speakers are close together, like the front left and front right speakers in a home theater setup. On top of that, 4-conductor wires is really good for biamp speakers where the inputs have 2 sets of terminals for the highs and the lows, as well as for alarm system installations. Now the RCC14 series of speaker wire function exactly the same as normal CCA 14 gauge speaker wire, but the CL2 rating means it's passed the National Electrical Code test for a high rating of fire resistance. This just means that the wires are not going to burn during a sudden surge of electricity up to 150 watts, and the cables themselves will not carry a flame, which is why we recommend them when you need to install speaker wire through your walls or ceiling, so you always know your home, office, or commercial setup is fully protected. So the first part in your speaker wire installation is to determine the actual amount of speaker wire you need to go from your receiver to your speaker wires terminals. Now this kind of depends on how you're running your speaker wire and the placement of your speakers in conjunction to the placement of your receiver. At this point in the installation, we also recommend making the distinction if you want to use 2-conductor wires or 4-conductor wires. And remember, like I said before, 4-conductor wires work best if the speakers are close together. So another thing we want to take into account is where we're running our speaker wire through. So let's say we're running from our receiver to in-wall speakers or wall-mounted speakers. We're also going to want to take into account what's behind the wall. So you can use a stud finder to find where the studs are in your wall, so you know exactly how much wire you need and how much you need to pass through. It's also good to know where your studs are before you drill any holes. A general rule of thumb is you want to use 20% to 40% extra speaker wire to account for any impassable areas or obstacles. So for example, if the distance between your speaker's terminals and the receiver's terminals is 10 feet, we recommend using 12 to 14 feet of extra wire just to be safe. And then you can always put the additional slack in a service loop for future use and accessibility. Now when it comes time to make holes in your wall to run the wires through, we recommend that the holes are just big enough for the wires to easily pass through. And we also recommend that you place them at heights of the current electricity in your room, so like floor outlets and light switches. And you should also consider getting a universal pass-through single gang plate cover to hide the entry point and exit points of the speaker wire. Now just like running through the wall, the same principles apply when you're running speaker wires through your ceiling. You want to make sure there's no obstacles in the way or impassable areas. And a quick note, if you're installing speaker wire through a drop ceiling, it's a little easier to do than in a sheetrock ceiling because you can remove the ceiling tiles and you can also have more visibility, accessibility, and see where the wires are going. In sheetrock ceilings, it's a little more complicated to do, so we always recommend checking in with a professional or getting a second opinion before you do your install. Now after you've ran the wires to both your speaker's terminals and your receiver's terminals and it comes time to strip the wires, you can actually use a box cutter, a pair of scissors, an X-Acto knife. Just always use gloves and cut away from your body. You can also use a traditional wire stripper, which makes it a lot easier to do. So now with a wire stripper, all you have to do to strip wire is match it to the gauge of the wire. So in this case, it's all 14, so you just match that to the number on the wire stripper 14. Now because this is CL2 rated wire, it comes in a white PVC, which you have to strip first, so we recommend using the inside blade on a wire stripper or a pair of scissors. So now after you've stripped off the white PVC and you've also stripped off the positive and negative wires, you can actually plug the raw wire into your speaker's terminals and your receiver's terminals. You're going to match the red wire to the positive terminals on both your speaker and receiver, and the black wires to the negative terminals on your speaker and receiver. And if you're using the 4-conductor wire, you're going to do the same thing, match the positive to the red, the negative to the black, and then you're also going to match the other positive terminals to the green wire and the other negative terminals to the white wire. And if you don't want to go directly from the raw wire into your speakers terminals or receivers terminals, you can add them to banana connectors if your speakers or your receivers accept that. And then after you plug your speaker wire in, you're done with your installation. So hopefully this video showed you how easy it is to use your RCC14 in-wall and in-ceiling speaker wire. But if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to our customer support tech team through phone or email. As always, guys, I'm Mike from Rockville, and I'll see you in the next one.